Everyone. Now let us find out whether Matilda buys a new dress and from whom she borrows the necklace and what happens to the necklace, and ultimately what happens with to the heroine of our story, Matilda. The day of the ball approached, and Madame Loisel seemed sad, disturbed, anxious. Nevertheless, her dress was nearly ready. Her husband said to her one evening, "What is the matter with you? You have acted strangely for 2 or 3 days." Now, finally, when the day approached, the day approached, still she was sad, disturbed, and she was angry, anxious. Okay, why? Because see, her dress was ready. She bought the dress worth 400 francs, but still she was not happy, and her husband inquired why she was sad, and she responded, "I am vexed not to have a jewel, nothing to adorn myself with. I shall have such a poverty stricken look. I would prefer not to go to this party." So, what she demanded next, she wanted something, a jewel to wear to adorn her, to make her more beautiful. She demanded for a jewel. Okay, otherwise, if she had no jewel, she would not go for the party. He replied, "You can wear some natural flowers. In this season, they look very chic. They look very nice." So he gave her advice that she should wear natural flowers as jewels. She was not convinced. "No," she replied. There is nothing more humiliating than to have a shabby air in the midst of rich women. So she said, "See, other women who would be there in the party would be wearing nice jewels, and what I would be wearing, just jewel of made out of flowers? No, it would be humiliating, it would be insulting, and I wouldn't be attending such parties." Okay, then her husband cried out, "How stupid we are. Go and find your friend Madame Forestier and ask her to lend you her jewels." So he got an idea. He suggested her to go to Madame Forestier, her friend, and to borrow jewels from her. She uttered a cry of joy. "It is true," she said. "I had not thought of that." The next day, she took herself to her friend's house and related her story of distress. Madame Forestier went to her closet, took out a large jewel case, brought it, opened it, and said, "Choose, my dear." So the very next day, very happily, she went to Madame Forestier. She told her story and asked her for jewels. So Madame Forestier, with open heart, she offered her the box of jewel, and she asked her to choose any jewel she wanted to wear. She saw at first some bracelets, then a collar of pearls, then a Venetian cross of gold, and jewels of admirable workmanship. She tried the jewels before the glass, hesitated, but could neither decide to take them nor leave them. Then she asked, "Have you nothing more?" So she was not satisfied with the jewelry she showed to her, and she asked something more. "Why, yes, look for yourself. I do not know what will please you." Suddenly she discovered in a black satin box a superb necklace of diamonds. Her hand trembled as she took it out. She placed it about her throat against her dress and was ecstatic. Then she asked in a hesitating voice, full of anxiety, "Could you lend me this one? Only this." So finally, she had got the necklace which she was looking for, and she adorned around her neck, and she looked into the mirror, and she was not she didn't look at any other jewel. She was very pleased with it, and she said, she hesitantly asked to Madame Forestier that if she could take that necklace. So Madame Forestier was all ready to give her. So she said, "Why, yes, certainly you can take it." She fell upon the neck of her friend, embraced her with passion, then went away with her treasure. The day of the ball arrived. Madame Loisel was a great success. She was the prettiest of all, elegant, gracious, smiling, and full of joy. All the men noticed her, asked her name, and wanted to be presented. So finally, Madame Forestier was ready with her beautiful 400 francs, worth 400 francs dress, and the elegant necklace which she borrowed from Madame Forestier. And when she went to the party, all the men were impressed by her, the way she was dressed. She looked elegant, gracious, and she smiled with full of joy. Every man in the party noticed her and asked her name and wanted to be presented with her. She danced with enthusiasm, intoxicated with pleasure, thinking of nothing but all this admiration. This victory so complete and sweet to her heart. So this was her success, and finally she was successful in creating the attire which made her look rich and royal. She was very happy in the ball party. She went home towards 4 o'clock in the morning. Her husband had been half asleep in one of the little salons since midnight with three other gentlemen whose wives were enjoying themselves very much. So, Mr. Loisel, or Monsieur Loisel, he was waiting in one of these salons in the nearby area with other gentlemen whose wives, like Matilda, were enjoying the party and dancing with other men. She went to him, and they reached their house at 4 o'clock in the morning. He threw around her shoulders the modest wraps that they had carried, whose poverty clashed with the elegance of the ball costume. She wished to hurry away in order not to be noticed by the other women who were wrapping themselves in rich furs. So she wrapped herself in the thing called fur, okay, which was of made of, which gave her a look of middle class. She ran away from there, because other rich women should not take a look at her that, oh, she belonged to a poor family or a middle class family. Loisel detained her. Wait, said he, I'm going to call a cab. So when she was hurriedly moving from that place, he told her, wait, I'm going to call. He was supposed to call a cab so that they can move to their house. But she would not listen and descended the steps rapidly. When they were in the street, they found no carriage, and they began to seek for one, hailing the coachman whom they saw at a distance. So they found a carriage who would drop him to their house. They walked along towards the river, hopeless and shivering. Finally, they found one of those old carriages that one sees in Paris after nightfall. It took them as far as their door, and they went wearily up to their apartment. It was all over for her, and on his part, he remembered that he would have to be at the office by 10 o'clock. When finally they reached home, the party was over for her, but still she was there. She enjoyed a lot, and for him, he remembered that for the next day he had to go to the office at 10 o'clock, so he had to go to sleep. She removed the wraps from her shoulder before the mirror, for a final view of herself in her glory. Suddenly she uttered a cry. No, her necklace was not around her neck. The necklace which adorned her, which made her beautiful, or I should say, which added to her beauty, was not there. She had lost the necklace. Loisel, already half undressed, asked, what is the matter? She turned towards him excitedly. I no longer have Madame Forrester's necklace. I have lost it. So she was totally surprised. Sadly, she was surprised to see she had lost someone else's necklace. He arose in dismay. What? How is that? It is not possible. And they looked in the folds of the dresses, in the folds of the cloak, in the pockets, everywhere. They could not find it. He asked, you are sure you still had it when we left the minister's house? He inquired, are you sure you were still wearing when we left the minister's house? Yes, I felt it as we came out. But if you had lost it in the street, we should have heard it fall. It must be in the cab. So all they started thinking where they have lost it. Yes, it is possible. Did you take the number? No. And you? And you? Did you notice what it was? So they started recalling what was the number of the carriage through which they came to their house. So both of them, they did not remember the number. No. They looked at each other, utterly cast down. Finally, Loisel dressed himself again. I'm going, he said, over the track where we went on foot to see if I can find it. And he went. She remained in her evening gown not having the force to go to bed. Towards 7 o'clock, her husband returned. He had found nothing. He went to police and to the cab offices and put an advertisement in the newspaper offering a reward. She wanted all day in a state of bewilderment before this frightful disaster. Loisel returned in the evening, his face pale. He had discovered nothing. So for the first time, when he went to look for the necklace, he came back at 7 o'clock. He didn't find anything. Again, he went to the police station to and the newspaper to give the advertisement to whosoever who would find the necklace would be awarded. Okay, and he returned home in the evening, again disheartened without discovering anything. He said, write to your friend that you have broken the clasp of the necklace and that you will have it repaired. Okay, that will give us a time. Okay, she wrote as he dictated. So he suggested Matilda to write a letter to Madame Forrester that she by mistakenly she has broken the clasp of the necklace. Clasp means hook of the necklace, and she would take a time to get it repaired, and when it would be repaired it would be returned to her. And she wrote as he dictated. At the end of a week they had lost all hope, and Loisel, older by 5 years, declared, we must replace this necklace. At the end of the week, they had lost the hope because they didn't get any response from anyone who had found it. Okay, and finally they came to the conclusion that they should replace the jewel. Exactly the same jewel should be found in the market and should be given to Madame Forrester. In a shop of the Palace Royal, they found a chaplet of diamonds which seemed to them exactly like the one they had lost. It was valued at 40,000 francs. They could get it for 36,000 francs. Okay, so after searching in the market, they found exactly the same chaplet of diamonds necklace, but it cost 40,000 francs, and they dealt with the jeweler and he agreed on 36,000 francs. So they had to pay 36,000 francs, but they didn't have money in their hand. Loisel possessed 18,000 francs, which his father had left him. He borrowed the rest. He made ruinous promises, took money from usurers and the whole race of lenders. Then he went to get the new necklace, depositing on the merchant's counter 36,000 francs. So how he arranged for the money? Already he had 18,000 francs with him, which was given by his father to him. Then he borrowed the rest of the money from the money lenders. He took a loan of the remaining amount. So 18,000 francs loan he had taken from the money lenders. And finally, he bought the new necklace, which was exactly the same. When Madame Loisel took back the jewel to Madame Forrester, the latter said to her in a frigid tone, you should have returned them to me sooner, for I might have needed them. So when she returned the necklace to Madame Forrester was very angry on her because she took a long time to return the necklace. Madame Forrester did not open the jewel box as Madame Loisel feared she would. What would she think if she should perceive the substitution? What should she say? Would she take her for a robber? Okay, so Madame Forrester was a little bit afraid while returning that box. If she look at the necklace and if she come to know that that was not the real necklace, what she would do? Did she whether she would take her to the police and all that thoughts came to her mind. Madame Loisel now knew the horrible life of necessity. Now she had to pay for her greed, for not for being that which she was not actually in her life, for being that which she wanted to show the society she was a rich woman. For that she greedily asked for the necklace to Madame Forrester, and she lost it. And for that lost necklace she had to buy new necklace which was worth 40,000 francs. She had to pay 36,000 francs, and she got the loan of 18,000 francs on her head, and now she had to pay the loan. She did her part, however, completely heroically. It was necessary to pay this frightful debt. She would pay it. They sent away the maid. They changed their lodgings. They rented some rooms in an attic. So they changed their house. They went to an attic. They rented. They had to live in a rented house, which was not a house, which was an attic, a storeroom. Okay, they sent away the maid. They asked their maid to not to come for the job because they didn't have enough money to pay to her. She learned the odious work of a kitchen. She washed the dishes. She washed the soiled linens, their cloths, their dishcloths, which she hung on the line to dry. She took down the refuse to the street each morning and brought up the water, stopping at each landing to catch her breath. And cloth like a woman of the people, she went to the grocers, the butchers, and the fruiterers with her basket on her arms, shopping, haggling to the last sow of her miserable money. So all these things which she didn't do earlier, she had to do now because she had to pay the debt. The husband worked evening, putting the books of some merchants in order, and nights he often did copying at 5 sows a page. And this life lasted for 10 years. At the end of 10 years, they had restored all. So, at one part where she had to do the hard work in her house, where the work she had now not done in her earlier life. Okay, on the other hand, her husband had to work day and night for 5 sows for a night. He did the copywriting work, copying work, the writing work. Okay, for just 5 sows overnight they did the work, and this kind of life continued for 10 years. They wasted their 10 years of life in this disastrous or a destructive kind of a way of living. Okay, at the end of 10 years they had restored all, and in the 10th year they had restored their loan, and they were now living their life happily now. Madame Loisel seemed old now. She had become a strong, hard woman, the crude woman of the poor household. Her hair badly dressed, her skirts awry, her hands red. She spoke in a loud tone and washed the floors with large pails of water. But sometimes, when her husband was at the office, she would scat herself before the window and think of that evening party of former times, of that ball where she was so beautiful and so flattered. And finally, when they had paid their loan, Madame Loisel, she started looking very old. Though that 10-year span was not much to make her look old. What made her look old was the stress, the tension, which she bore at that time to pay the loan. The household work made her look old, and now she is able to do every kind of a work in her house which earlier she didn't do it. And she dressed herself very badly. She started talking very loudly, and she started doing the work which she had not done earlier. And she started standing before the window, and many a time she thought of the ball party which she enjoyed that night, that evening. Okay, how would it have been if she had not lost the necklace? Who knows how singular is life? Okay, and how full of changes. How small a thing will ruin or save a one. So she kept on thinking this thing. If she had not borrowed the necklace from Madame Loisel, if she had not lost the necklace, so what would have happened? A single thing, in a minute thing in your life can ruin your life. Okay, or it can make your life. The necklace had ruined her life. One Sunday, as she was taking a walk in the Champs Elysees to rid herself of the cares of the week, I'm so sorry, she suddenly perceived a woman walking with a child. It was Madame Forestier, still young, still pretty, still attractive. Madame Loisel was affected. Should she speak to her? Yes, certainly. And now that she had paid, she would tell her all. Why not? So one evening, on one Sunday evening, when Madame Loisel was going to the market, she noticed Madame Forestier. Madame Forestier was still looking young, pretty, and attractive. Okay, and both of them were of the same age, but Madame Loisel was looking older than Madame Forestier. She was not at all attractive because of the 10 years loss she had, the debt she had paid for. And she thought whether she should go and speak to Madame Forestier. And then later on she thought why she should not speak, because after all she had paid for the debt, and she should tell her everything what had happened because of one necklace. She approached her. Good morning, Jean. Her friend did not recognize her and was astonished to be so familiarly addressed by this common personage. She stammered, but Madame, I don't know. I do not know. You must be mistaken. So Madame Forestier did not recognize Madame Loisel because of her old look. No, I am Matilda Loisel. Her friend uttered a cry of astonishment. Oh, my poor Matilda, how you have changed. Yes, I have had some hard days since I saw you, and some miserable ones, and all because of you. Because of me? How is that? You recall the diamond necklace that you loaned me to wear to the minister's ball? Yes, very well. Well, I lost it. How is that? Since you returned it to me. So she was surprised. How you lost it? It is with me because you returned it to me. I returned to you exactly like it, and it has taken 10 years to pay for it. You have understand that it was not easy for us to have nothing, but it is finished, and I am decently content now. So she told her everything, that because of your necklace I had to spend 10 years of my life in a ruined state. Madame Forestier stopped short. She said, you say that you bought a diamond necklace to replace mine? Yes, you did not perceive it then. They were just alike. And she smiled with proud and simply joy. Madame Forestier was touched and took both her hands as she replied, oh, my poor Matilda, mine was false. Mine necklace, diamond necklace was false. They were not worth over 500 francs. Madame Forestier finally she told her that the necklace which she lended to Madame Loisel was a false one, which was not a real diamond necklace. It was a false one worth only 500 francs. For just a 500 francs necklace, Madame Loisel had spent 36,000 francs for that necklace, and she had lost 10 years of her life. So this is what greed is. So don't be greedy in your life. Be satisfied what you have. Be contented what you have in your life, so that you can be leading a contented life. Not like Matilda, right? Matilda, she was a greedy woman. She was not satisfied what she had. She, after realizing that she had lost the necklace, she had lost her happiness. Whatever things she had in her life, she had to lose all those things, the luxurious things which she had. So not to have, don't be greedy. Okay, be satisfied. Otherwise you would have to face the life how the Matilda did. So this is a story by Guy de Maupassant, and the necklace. I hope you have understood the story. So please go through the lesson, go through the videos, mark the important points, in the textbook, and write them down in the notebook. And please leave your comments in the comment section. Till then, bye.